If your normal stance looks like this instead of this, that's an anterior pelvic tilt. And over time, that can cause back pain, tightness right here, and issues lifting your legs, hamstring issues, and even glute activation issues. The anterior pelvic tilt happens when the front of your pelvis tilts down and the back of your pelvis tilts up, creating that exaggerated lower back arch. This position shortens your hip flexors, overstretches the hamstrings, and forces your lower back to carry the load instead of your core and your glutes. Most people try things like stretching, but if the pelvis stays tipped forward, the tightness keeps coming back. This 3-step protocol resets your pelvis, strengthens the right muscles, and teaches your body proper alignment through real-life movement. This exercise resets the pelvis by reactivating the hamstrings and also your deep core so that your ribs and your pelvis stay stacked. For this exercise, grab a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. Lie on your back and place this ball in between your knees. Now make sure that you have a 90-degree angle bend in the knees right here. Your feet should be flat on the wall. Also make sure if you have an arch in your back, you want to tuck it slightly, but you don't want to have an excessive tuck with this. You're only applying a very small amount of pressure to this ball in between your knees. Now you're going to press your heels into the wall. Bring your hands up right here. Keep that pelvis in a neutral position. And then you're gonna press the heels into the wall like you're basically trying to drag them down. This motion should slightly lift the tailbone, and you should also feel this in your hamstrings. You only want to lift slightly to where you can fit like a credit card or a sheet of paper underneath there. In this position, you're going to breathe 3 full breaths, and then you're going to come back down. You're going to do 2 sets with those 3 full breaths. This exercise directly repositions the pelvis by activating those hamstrings, relaxing the hip flexors, and this restores rib pelvis alignment, which is the foundation for correcting the anterior pelvic tilt. It helps standing, walking, and lifting without your lower back taking over. Now, if you're looking at taking things up a notch, this is a little bit more of an advanced move. But if you're just beginning, just do the first reset. This advanced reset challenges rib control and also pelvic position while your legs and core work together. Stand about 8 to 12 inches away from a wall. Now, you're going to press your lower back and also your mid back into the wall. In this position, you're gonna exhale and you're gonna tuck your ribs, which will automatically bring your back into a neutral position. You wanna maintain that neutral pelvis the entire time. Come down, keeping your back in contact with the wall, and you're gonna come down to where you're about 30%. You don't wanna go too low on this exercise. Your goal is to just breathe naturally and keep that neutral pelvis. Then you're gonna come back up. You're gonna do 2 sets of 8 to 10 controlled reps of these. This variation teaches your pelvis to stay neutral under load. It improves core integration and also reduces lumbar extension, which is essential for correcting anterior pelvic tilt in standing. It improves your ability to maintain neutral alignment while standing, squatting, bending, and lifting. Now we're going to move on to step 2. This builds strength and neuromuscular control that prevents your pelvis from tipping forward again. This next exercise teaches your ribs and your pelvis to work together so your hip flexors stop doing all the work. Lie down and place your legs in a tabletop position. So they're going to be bent at that 90-degree angle. Bring your arms straight up overhead. Also, make sure if you have an arch in your back, you want to tuck your pelvis slightly, not overly tuck. You just want to remain in a neutral position the entire time. You're going to bring one arm overhead and bring the opposite leg down. You're only going to come down to as far as you can without the back arching. And then you're going to slowly come back up. You're going to alternate between each side. Do 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps per side. Dead bugs train anti-extension. This is the exact skill that you need to prevent anterior tilt from coming back when you're doing things like walking, lifting, or standing. It helps improve posture. It also prevents the back from arching during daily tasks. It reduces hip flexor tightness and stabilizes your pelvis when you walk, climb the stairs, or even get up from a chair. This next exercise forces your glutes to lift your pelvis without letting your back and also your hip flexors take over. Lie on your back and make a 90-degree angle bend. Now take the other leg and hug it into your chest. Bring your arm to the floor and then bring your heel to meet up to where your fingertips lightly graze them. Now bring the heel forward slightly. You're gonna hug your knee into your chest just enough to where you feel a slight pelvis tuck. That is gonna give you a nice neutral spine here, so you don't wanna overly tuck it. Now you're gonna put the weight on this leg right here, and you're gonna push in through the heel, keeping that neutral pelvis, and press up. You're gonna hold this position for 2 seconds and then come back down. You're gonna do 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps per side. The Cook hip lift is one of the most effective glute activation drills because it eliminates hip flexor compensation, which is a major contributor to anterior pelvic tilt. It teaches your glutes to hold the pelvis in a neutral position. It improves how you walk, climb the stairs, stand up, and also lift things from the floor. These are all tasks where people with anterior pelvic tilt usually arch their backs instead of using their hips. Now, if you want a slightly more advanced move than the single leg bridge, this is an advanced exercise for step 2, but if you're just beginning, just skip this exercise. This strengthens your deep core and also hip stabilizers, and it teaches your pelvis not to tip forward under load. You want to get on all fours, and you want to make sure that your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist are in a straight line. Now you're gonna slightly tuck the pelvis to where it's neutral. So you don't wanna excessively tuck, and you don't wanna have a huge arch. You just wanna have a nice neutral pelvis. From here, you're going to lift the knees up and hover about 1 inch. You're gonna hold this position for about 2 to 3 seconds, and then you're gonna come back down. You're gonna do 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps of these. This quadruped hover builds anti-extension and anti-rotation strength. These are 2 critical components for stabilizing that pelvis and preventing anterior pelvic tilt. This improves your ability to carry loads, walk, bend, and push without losing that rib pelvis alignment. This exercise is gonna teach you how to hip hinge properly without arching your lower back. Now you're gonna get into a tall kneeling position. Pay close attention to how my toes are positioned. This is very important. You don't wanna be up on your toes. You wanna actually point your toes to where your toes are against the mat. This removes the ankle tension and allows you to be at a more neutral pelvis. Now you're gonna tuck your pelvis slightly. You don't wanna really have an excessive tuck here. You're really just working on keeping a neutral pelvis. From this position, you're gonna make sure that your back is straight, and you're also gonna make sure that your ribs are not flaring. I always find it helpful to keep my hands here so you can make sure during the entire movement that the ribs aren't starting to flare. Now in this position, you're gonna hinge forward, keeping that back straight, pushing your butt out. You're gonna come down to where your torso is parallel to the floor, or at least as far as you can go to where you're not feeling any flaring in the ribs or the back isn't starting to round or anything. And then you're gonna squeeze the glutes, and you're gonna control the movement and come back up. You're gonna do 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps of these. This tall kneeling hip hinge forces the ribs, the pelvis, and the hips to hip hinge properly, which is essential for correcting anterior pelvic tilt. This improves any hinge-related movements, whether that be bending for working out or even just bending to put something back. This next exercise is going to correct hip flexor dominance. It improves glute activation and stabilizes your pelvis in a single leg pattern. And this is exactly where the anterior pelvic tilt shows up most. From a tall kneeling position, you're gonna bring one leg forward. Starting out, you wanna have a 90-degree angle bend, so you wanna make sure that your knee and also your ankle are in a straight line. Now, this is very important. For stability, you want your back toes to be tucked. From here, you're gonna tuck your pelvis slightly. You only wanna maintain a neutral pelvis. Now, in this position, keeping that pelvis slightly tucked, you're gonna lean forward. You're gonna bring your knee over your toe, and you're gonna hold this position for about 2 seconds, and then you're gonna come back up. You're gonna do a total of 2 sets of 8 to 10 reps of these per side. This exercise lengthens the hip flexors, reduces tightness when walking, and most importantly, it allows your glutes to take over instead of your back. This last exercise incorporates glute, core, rib, and hip control while resisting extension and rotation, the most common compensations in an anterior pelvic tilt. For this exercise, grab a resistance band. You want it to be anchored to the side. Make sure that you have some tension in the band the entire time. And now with the leg that's closest to the anchor point, you're gonna take a large step back. You want the band to be anchored at chest height when you're in the lunge. Make sure that your knee is bent at that 90-degree angle. Holding this position, You're gonna resist rotation and you're gonna press out. You're gonna hold this for about 2 seconds and then you're gonna come back in. You're gonna do 2 sets of 6 to 8 reps per side. This improves stability when walking, carrying, lifting, even pushing, and even any single leg or any rotation movement pattern.